Joining us now, Jaykumar Menon. He's a human rights lawyer who is now building a platform where scientists and researchers can freely access tech tools. These tools are for sharing discoveries, for starting new investigations into possible medication, into drugs, to researching diseases, a platform that could also turn all that research into medicine. And if the platform succeeds, it'll allow drugs to succeed on their merit and need rather than their ability to be profitable. But more than anything else, Jaykumar Menon is also looking at a vaccine, which, if it works out, would be the cheapest vaccine in the world. It would be designed for billions around the world, and it would be the ultimate, in a sense, generic vaccine. No pricing issues. It's sort of a vaccine done for the sake of humanity. Thank you very much, Jaykumar Menon, for being with us this evening. Now, you know, we were chatting a few days back, and you mentioned that the vaccines which you are developing aren't necessary, or you're looking to develop, aren't COVID specific. Instead, they would be broad spectrum, and in the process would perhaps fight COVID as well. So my question is this: how soon before a vaccine materializes?
Nice to be here, Vishnu. And my answer is very rapidly. We are currently in phase 3 trials, which is the final stage of clinical testing, using our open, broad spectrum, universal approach. And our vision, in a word, is universality. It's protection for all, protection from all. And by using the sum total of human knowledge, by using an open approach, we can get there much more quickly.
And what is this vaccine called?
So we are taking what the Earth has already provided. Our secret is that we are not constrained by profit maximization. Our purpose is health maximization. So to that end, we're looking at several already existing vaccines, pediatric vaccines in a way you could call them. So these are the vaccines for tuberculosis, for measles, for the oral polio vaccine, and also the influenza vaccine. And the very latest science, published in the New England Journal of Medicine by some of our team, in fact, has shown that these vaccines induce something called trained immunity, and they cause the innate immune system to bloom in a way. And it's possible, in fact, for one vaccine to protect against many diseases at once. Now, all the better that these vaccines are low cost. Most of them are off patent. They're available for the whole world to produce, and they're very trusted. Billions of children have used them for decades, and they already collectively reach billions of people. So to our minds, this is an obvious solution. It's something that we must try. We cannot guarantee that they work, but it is imperative that we try to research these and develop them and roll them out as quickly as possible.
And where are your phase 3 trials happening?
So we have phase 3 trials commencing now in Brazil, and we are also working on commencing phase 3 trials in India. And to that respect, we have partners in place, but we need more support. We need support from government. We need support from the people of India. We need support from universities, because we're doing this as a collective project, not for profit, but for humanity. And these vaccines, it's sort of like Linux and Microsoft. They have actual technical advantages to them. They can protect against variants, which are the big problem now. They also are more rapidly available because of their mass production. And as you so eloquently mentioned, they're much more accessible because these are tried and true, and billions of people already use them, and the production is massive.
And funding the research for this vaccine candidate, how did you manage that?
So our funding needs were radically less because these are already approved vaccines. So all we had to do was get testing funding for the very last stage. And so it's been philanthropically funded, and even some universities have funded it from their own pockets. We are looking, though, for an expansion of that. We are looking for the people of India to step up, and we are looking for governments in India to step up, because our costs to repurpose these already existing vaccines are 100th to 1,000th of what has been spent on the existing vaccines so far. Those vaccines have been showered with government largesse, and it was needed, and the development was rapid. But this is an even better deal for humanity, and it behooves us to explore it.
And where does the World Health Organization stand with your research? You mentioned phase 3 trial data is something that you're seeking to get. What about phase 1 and phase 2? Has it been shared with the WHO?
Sure. So these vaccines, there are decades, because they're already existing vaccines, we can skip right to phase 3. Now, what's the evidence in favor of them working? There are decades of clinical trial evidence, decades, showing that The tuberculosis vaccine, BCG, MMR, and OPV protect against many diseases at once and reduce what's called all-cause mortality by the scientific process, the cutting-edge scientific process that I mentioned before. Now, what remains to be proven is how effective are these against COVID? And the other nice thing about it is because these are broad spectrum, they will not suffer from the vulnerabilities that the very specific vaccines that have come out do. They will apply as well, by all scientific logic, to the variants, which have the potential to escape the existing vaccines. So as a sort of minimization of risk strategy, we do not want to see a third wave in India. If there is one, we should be ready with vaccines already these vaccines already reach the majority of Indian people and that have broad spectrum protection that can protect against variants.
So Jaykumar, would you need to tweak these vaccines?
We do not. So these are tried and true safety records for decades. And that's the reason for the speed and the access and also, frankly, the trust. People trust these and they're available.
And is there any one vaccine that shows more potential than the other, or are you trialing a couple of those which already exist? You mentioned tuberculosis, BCG. How many are you putting into trials right now to test them against COVID?
We are interested in 4 right now: the BCG, MMR, OPV, and influenza. All of them have significant evidence of trained innate immunity. The innate immune system is sort of our body's broad moat that protects against all diseases at once. And what's neat is the current vaccines are really designed only to protect against one disease at once, but this approach is superior technically in that sense. So we're looking at all these 4, and we're agnostic. Wherever the data lands us, we will go. If they show that they do not work, we'll drop the matter. But my point is, I really want to make to the people, we're telling the story here that there's a different way to develop vaccines, an open way, a way that uses what is already out there and which has not been picked up because the current system, because of its economic structure, almost cannot take this. But this has high health priority. And for 1/100th the cost, we should be exploring this. And India, in fact, can be tomorrow a leader in vaccine repurposing, which is the technical name for this. It can be a leader in innate immunity, which is the scientific doctrine underlying this, New England Journal of Medicine, October 2020. And it can be a leader in protecting itself against the third wave. We do not need to in-license vaccines from other companies or other companies or other countries. This can be done indigenously now.
When you say repurposing a vaccine, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know how much a vaccine for, say, tuberculosis costs. In rupee terms or dollar terms, you know, if your repurposing works,
Sure.
How much would it cost a dose?
So this is the incredible part. The oral polio vaccine in rupees would be about 1 rupee a dose.
Wow.
The BCG tuberculosis would be about 10 rupees a dose. Now, I may be a couple of rupees off here or there, but this is the order of directly correct figures. And so it is incredible. And, you know, you can keep in mind, you know, many of us have had the BCG vaccine already as kids. Yes. These things are tried and true. There's supply chains in place. There are factories in place. The vaccine hesitancy will be diminished because people trust these. And the fact that our solution was there already in our hands, potentially at the beginning of this crisis, is incredible. We had a conference of 300 scientists, and the panelists, I was speaking at this conference, and many of the panelists confessed one after another, yes, I took the measles vaccine. Another said, yes, I took the BCG. Another said, yes, I had taken the shingles. When you have nothing else, and this is safe, then this is what they individually chose to do. Now, policy matter would be different. We would like to have data in place. And all we're saying is that these trials need to be funded. They need to be funded massively. Government and society should step in. And I offer you an example. If you say an open source, universal access vaccine sounds far-fetched, I would say history says otherwise. The last great vaccine crisis of the world, you might say, was the polio vaccine crisis in the 1950s. It was as much in the media as almost as COVID vaccines are today. And Edward R. Murrow, the great journalist.
So so Jaykumar, as I wrap this up, I got to ask you one final question, which is this.
Yes.
If you're repurposing vaccines, which we've already taken, then why aren't they protecting us against COVID?
They fade over time is the short answer, and you need revaccination.
All right. So that's brilliant, absolutely, and you've got great support from a lot of wonderful scientists around the world. And one just hopes that
Yes.
the real cure for billions of people is actually already there amidst us. It just needs to be taken out, tested, and then perhaps it'll help so many around the world. Thanks very much for being an inspiration. We'll talk to you at length as you make more progress in this. Thanks very much indeed for being with us.
Thank you, Vishnu.